Hi, everyone. Welcome to Lunchtime Studio Visit. This week, we have the pleasure of having our EFA Studio member, Jason File, who joined us last year during the
Right. Yeah.
during the
In
pandemic. Yeah,
mid pandemic. Yeah.
yeah, it's a brave choice. Welcome here. What are you working on now? Like, is that your studio where you're at?
Yep. I am in the studio right now. It's yeah. I'm really happy to be here. And I can't wait for more and more people to kind of come back and populate the building more often. It's been maybe quieter than I anticipated when I first applied, and I was familiar with the raucous open studios, and was really looking forward to getting to participate in one of those. And I think I'm really looking forward to when that comes back. I think that's going to be great.
Hmm.
I really like this institution. Right now, I'm kind of working on a few different things. Some of them relate to kind of the visual presentation of edits in documents, especially kind of I have this sort of dual career as an artist and a lawyer, and I draw a lot of inspiration for my artwork from the legal world
Right.
that I work in, and so uh, a lot of things kind of sprout from the legal world one way or another.
Are you still working for the UN, or are you like freelancing?
Not for the
No
UN. Now I'm
longer.
working for a law firm. So
Oh.
I've moved from the um, public sector to the private sector, but
Hmm.
still still practicing law. Still focused on international law specifically, um, but the kind of war crimes prosecution work that I was doing at the UN, that is no longer part of my day to day.
Gotcha. Yeah. So were you able to have the job and your practice going the same time during quarantine? Because that was a big shakeup for a lot of artists, but also their day jobs and the just regular jobs was quite difficult.
It was, yeah.
What's your experience? Yeah.
My job, my law job, just fully transitioned to work from home work, and so that was there was kind of a month of probably just getting used to that, and actually in some ways once it sort of the routine of that kind of work became a little more familiar. I could even come to the studio and do work here and just kind of multitask. In a way, it was kind of there are some advantages to
Right.
being able to do your law practice from your studio as well, kind of in parallel.
Bled into each other. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Like your practice. Yeah. What kind of work are you working on now?
So yeah, so
Like, yeah.
I'd say the main kind of uh, material outcomes are kind of paper based, as well as some mold making and casting as well.
Mm.
Those are everything that I do. It's from the starting point of an idea. I never know exactly kind of what form it's going to take until I give it time to kind of uh, develop and evolve. But I do often come back to paper-based work, especially office paper-based work.
Oh.
I find that kind of office paper is a really great um, medium to work with. I've done work where I collected shredded confidential documents from my work as a prosecutor, and then in fact, I made the process of shredding them into a performance, and then remade the shreds back into paper, and sort of preserving a bit of the sense of what it was before. And I kind of like that idea of how the paper can sort of contain the information, but it's no longer legible. And it's kind of all mixed up, and it becomes this new surface, I guess, for reinscribing something. So I come back to office paper a lot. Right now, it's a lot about this sort of editing, markups, that sort of thing, which become kind of splashes of color on an otherwise kind of very austere kind of black and white legal document. So when you come upstairs, I can show you kind of what I'm thinking about. You know, it's still kind of evolving, I guess. And then yeah, a bit of mold making and casting based on and I'll show you again when you come upstairs, sort of the conduits of information and energy that support a lot of the legal institutions that we're familiar with, ranging from courts to international organizations to government, private firms, all that sort of thing. We think of so much that has moved to the cloud, but in a way, everything still relies on infrastructure that gets plugged in one way or another. And I'm thinking about these kind of cables and like the entry points of and exit points of information, and trying to, in a way, kind of document those in a, I don't know, maybe like an archaeological way. I'll show you when you come upstairs. It'll make sense.
Yeah. Why don't you show us the video that you're working on?
Yeah, so I'm glad we could do this in a hybrid way, so that we could do a little bit of video.
Show and tell. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I thought it would be maybe a good introduction to the kinds of things that I'm thinking about and the way that I'm sort of combining law into an art practice. So let me see if I can bring up the. It's going to be like a brief documentation video that will kind of show what an installation that I did a year or two ago at the NARS Foundation looked like, so that you can kind of see some of these. So let me do screen share. Where is this? Here we go. Okay. There we go. Okay, can you see that?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, good. So this is an installation that I did called Exactitude. I had done some performances where I invited members of the art community in the Netherlands, when I was working in The Hague, doing war crimes prosecution work, to come see some courtroom appearances, like cross-examinations of defense witnesses, as art performances, essentially. And at the beginning, it started as a kind of live thing that people could come see in the courtroom. And then I had this institutionally made documentation that was, because these trials are televised, they're very long trials. They go for 4 or 5 years, some of them.
Wow.
And so they're sort of day in, day out kind of courtroom work. If you jump into it in the middle, it may not make a lot of sense to somebody, because it's so detailed, but it takes such a long time. That there are actually very few people, I think, who have, other than the judges and the participants, who have seen all of this. And so I took the sort of a bit of the courtroom setup. I took 2 of the kind of monitors that we use in the courtroom, and set them up with this kind of 2-channel video presentation that has on one screen the kind of video documentation of this cross-examination. And then on the other screen, it has a running script. It's like a film script, but it uses the text of the courtroom appearance as the basis for the film script. And it has kind of, what you would see in a normal film script, with kind of directorial suggestions, describing the action, that kind of thing. And then on the desk, it has kind of bits and pieces of that are sort of public items that are related to the trial. So evidence lists. It has copies of the film script as well. And then I wanted to kind of keep this officey, institutional kind of feel going, and bring in some elements from my legal office as well. And as you'll see, and when I show the video, this is the cross-examination of an intelligence officer who was testifying on behalf of the defense. He had worked for the United Nations and was describing kind of military observers as part of his testimony, and he compared them, as you'll hear, to Rambo. And so I kind of created this piece of evidence that was a film still from Rambo. And you can see it kind of up there in 3 kind of descending degrees of pixelization and lower resolution. And it's sort of the clearest version is hidden by this office plant, which is a Ravenea rivularis, which is interesting. It's actually, there are only about 90 of these plants in the wild still in existence. I think they're all in Madagascar, and they grow to be like 90 or 100 feet tall. They're actually gigantic palm trees. But they're endangered in the wild, but they are in every IKEA everywhere, and in many offices, and as these kind of docile 3 or 4 foot tall kind of office plants or house plants. So I like that kind of, it sort of brought the Rambo jungle setting and the office setting together, because that's something that you could find probably in both places. So I'll play this little bit of documentation so you can kind of see what it is, and it'll have a little snippet of the trial as well.
Yeah.
The sound will come on later.
And in your statement at paragraph 26, you also discuss this today at temporary transcript 21. You say, although Unmos were supposed to be unarmed, many of them had weapons. They were like Rambo. Now, from your answer today, when you talked about them being armed and aggressive, what you meant by this is that they looked and acted like Rambo, correct?
That is correct, yes.
You're talking about the film character Rambo, right?
That's right, yes.
Now, you would admit that this is an exaggeration, right?
Yes, I would.
And you're aware that engaging in this kind of exaggeration could have the effect of demeaning your United Nations colleagues from that time.
May I have a minute to think about that question?
You may.
Yes, I would agree with you.
So that's just a kind of little clip of what that's like. To sort of interact with it, you would sit down at the desk and put on the headphones, which are also the kind of headphones that are used in those trials in the UN in The Hague for all the participants, because you have multiple language channels with simultaneous interpretation when the witnesses are not speaking the same language as the questioner or the tribunal. And I don't know exactly how that would, we'll have to see in the post-COVID environment, how headphones in video installations work. Maybe we'll have them back, I guess, or maybe we'll figure out something else.
Yeah, and that piece is called Exactitude?
Exactitude, yeah. The whole series is called Exactitude because I was thinking about this kind of, this 1 paragraph long short story by Borges on exactitude in science, which is all about a kind of map of the world on a 1-to-1 scale, and sort of the attempt to make it, and then it kind of becoming shoddy and fraying and falling apart. So yeah, I just like that idea of the sort of that duality between the actual world and the map that's the same. I think that's kind of a sort of poetic way of describing how we all can kind of interact with the world as both a model of itself as well as the real thing. And it gives you a chance to think about it kind of metaphorically.
Yeah, and you were saying because your work plays a lot with subjectivity and objectivity. I feel like the title of it really speaks well with that, and also the piece itself too. It's like there's that film script version and the actual version of what happened. So,
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
I mean, you could think there of a kind of, if there are infinite worlds, you can think of one where you could write the script for this before and then have it performed. But then in this case, the script came after the performance.
Yeah. No, super interesting. Yeah. Why don't I come up and then you can show me the rest of the work. Yeah.
Okay, sounds great.
Cool. Yeah.
Talk to you
All
soon.
right.
Okay.
Mhm. Hi, Jace.
Hello.
Reconnected.
Yes, in person.
Yeah. Wow. Big studio.
Yeah, so my studios always end up looking a little bit kind of officey, I guess. Like, they always have that kind of
yeah, like a reception area.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Sometimes with visitors, I won't do this with you because it's this is essentially broadcast. But, sometimes we will sign essentially like a confidentiality agreement. This is a performance called NDA. So it's an NDA, and the work essentially is a real contract that provides for the confidentiality of the discussion. So it allows the visitor or the gallery goer to disclose a secret to me in the performance, and that it is actually a binding contract, and it will be kept secret with several very narrow exclusions, like being forced to disclose by the government. But that's so that's like a kind of performance that I do sometimes with visitors.
Where do you keep all these things that people sign?
I just keep a file with them, and that's the only record that it ever happened. I don't kind of keep notes or record it or anything like that. So it's just a record that we kind of had a meeting and did the performance. And then, presumably someone told me a secret, but that's kind of, other than that, it's a more kind of ephemeral performance, I suppose.
Oh, you must have gathered a lot of signatures over the years.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah, I don't do it every time, and sometimes people don't want to do it, so I'm not going to like force them. But yeah, sometimes it's fun and it can be kind of interesting. It can go in all kinds of different directions.
Right. Yeah. True.
So let's see. I was telling you about some of the work I've been doing on kind of like
what are these guys?
So this is kind of like I actually had to take down the ones that I was using as kind of beginning sort of inspiration, because it was from actual cases, and I can't share that with anybody. It's sort of that's just for me. But I do like the way that these documents kind of get marked up both by hand as well as in editing programs like Word, and so I sort of took some boilerplate language from document requests, and also kind of was focusing on how a lot of the things that get discussed in terms of materials that convey information in law are sort of the same as you find in art. So sketches, drawings, video and audio tapes. Those are all considered documents for the purpose of a document request, and I like that kind of overlap. So I was inserting sculptures and installations here, adding some comments that come from some of my favorite kind of touchstone writers like Alan Capro or Lucy Lippard, and so I had a couple of comments that kind of related to what was going on in the document request. But it's one of the things I'm sort of thinking about. And then I'll show you the mold making casting kind of thing that I was talking about.
Yeah.
I think it's sort of, well, actually, what it really started from is right above you, this kind of Frankenstein air conditioner that we have with all of these. I think every studio has this, and it's got these pipes and wires, electrical wires. And I kind of was looking at this a lot and thinking, I like the way that this thing is connected in so many different ways to kind of, different parts of the world through air and electricity and sensors and all of these things. And then, if you look down at the wall, you've got the Wi-Fi that's kind of plugged in with this little Ethernet cable, and everything has to be kind of plugged in somewhere. And I was kind of thinking about how that relates to all of these different institutions. And so I went to the UN and sort of took a mold of one of these kinds of cables on the wall. I was kind of looking for kind of ways to like preserve what this looks like today. So here's kind of what. This is just like a very simple, really simple process with just like taking some bricks of clay, just a press mold, and just like forcing it in, getting the impression, and going kind of just very quickly. And I was really kind of attracted by that sort of outcome because it felt a little bit fossil-like, or a little bit kind of I don't know, like a sort of future archaeological version of what we have today. And so. I was thinking this has some potential, and have been kind of sending out kits to people who I know in different institutions, and asking them to kind of help me by taking a mold of a wire or a cable housing area, or something that kind of connects their institution to the rest of the world in a way.
Oh, right, yeah.
And if anyone's out there that is like listening to this and wants to collaborate with me on this and receive a mold kit to take a mold of where you work, something like that, just let me know. I'm sure we can. They're gonna think you're weird, but hopefully you won't get fired. I think it's fine. So that's kind of one other kind of area of.
What kind of institutions are you looking for?
I'm interested in government institutions, as well as legal institutions. But I would also consider other kind of professional type institutions, the ones that are often custodians of information, that,
like a library or stuff like that.
Yes, exactly. Anything like that is kind of like a hub, or a custodian of information, because we feel these things are being dematerialized, and they are in some ways, but there is still this physical connection that links them, and I want to kind of extract that in a way, and sort of preserve it.
No, this really looks very archaeological, or can be a snake, can be very like not anthro, but like
animalistic, whatever that is. Exactly. Yeah.
Wow. Is that clay, or
this is
epoxy, or
this is plaster? This is just
plaster.
Just plaster, and then the clay was the sort of the mold.
How did you get the color?
That was the clay. That was actually the kind of it was a sort of grayish brown kind of original mold, and so I think that then what I would try to do is probably, if I want to make kind of multiples of these, I would then have to make maybe a silicone mold based on this, and then try to redo it. I think these elements are very fragile here, and so it's I would like to try to preserve that, because I do like those little creases between where the clay bricks have been kind of smushed together. So yeah, we'll see. It's sort of like in a process of experimentation, but I like these kinds of outcomes. I think it's interesting.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and then something else, because you were asking about the
because you were saying about the shredded
paper, right?
Yeah.
So why don't we? I'll show you some of these. So these are some examples of the kind of shredded paper that I was turning back into. Those are some proofs. Turning back into paper. So I made several different kinds of versions. This one is kind of an example where, when you're making this kind of thing from the shreds, you have to create a pulp in the blender. And so this is really fully pulped, and it creates almost a blank page.
Pretty much. Yeah.
And with just it turns a little bit gray because of the toner, the printer toner, that ends up kind of impregnating the entire surface. But otherwise, it's a very, very kind of subtle surface. Yeah. And then you can also. One of the things that I thought was interesting was to kind of start to include some of the shreds in their kind of native, kind of original form in a way. And so I really like the detail that comes out of this, because you can see, some large font here. These are confidential documents or classified documents that were from either the trials or the functioning of the institution. And so you have like, big letter things, looks like maybe that might have been a speech, like a script that could have been like a draft of a script that would have been read by potentially a lawyer in court or somebody else. You even have like a little piece of a signature there. And each one of these is different and kind of preserves little elements of these things, even though they're not legible. So yeah, that's kind of that project called In Black and White.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Wow, this is amazing. Yeah. Like, are there just documents from your work, or?
Yes, these are documents that I had access to, and that normally what happens is they go in a big shredder, and then they get taken away by a company that then just incinerates them.
Right. Yeah.
But then sometimes they would not they wouldn't close the thing that and lock it. So I was thinking, whenever this is available, this is a great material. So let's just rescue it.
Didn't think an artist would be in house to steal things like this.
Yeah, I mean, not steal.
No, not steal, but yeah, recycle.
That's
things
right.
like this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. This is an environmental service.
Yeah, recreating them into art. Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's great. Yeah, thank you for today. Yeah. We've seen a lot. And do you have any shows coming up, or are you?
Yeah.
Do you have a work somewhere? Right?
I have one on right now that's in Treviso, Italy. So hard to get to from here. But if you happen to be in Italy in that area, it's on until I think the end of this month, end of May. It's also available online, however. So there's a lot. I think all of the works can be viewed online, and I can circulate a link. If people want to see that.
Yeah, we'll plug that below. Yeah.
Nice. And then what else? I'm doing a seminar as well for a university in Paris that is doing a kind of study of video trials. So trials that are captured on video and kind of what happens to that footage and how is it used. And so they were interested in talking to an artist who had used the kind of trial video one way or another. And so it kind of went from there, and I'm going to do that seminar, which is later this month as well.
Cool.
Again, virtually. I wish I could travel there, but it's the world we live in.
Yeah.